Welcome to Create Wealth Through Franchising Podcast and Kim Daly TV. I am your host, Kim Daly. I want to educate, motivate, and inspire your business ownership journey by interviewing CEOs, leaders, sales coaches, and exceptional franchisees to learn their valuable insights and strategies that we can apply to our own business ownership dreams. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to Create Wealth Through Franchising Podcast and Kim Daly TV. Today, I have the amazing honor of introducing a woman to you all that has been in my head for a few years, every single morning as I'm out walking the streets of New England while she is across the pond in England. Her name is Sasha Stephens, but until a few days ago, I really knew her as Genevieve Davis, which is her pen name. Sasha Stephens, I am so excited my heart is like pounding out of my chest, but I'm so excited to introduce you to the listeners and followers of Kim Daly TV. Thank you for being our guest.
What an introduction. Thank you so much, Kim. It's very, very nice to be here. Lovely to be here, in fact.
Okay, So this woman is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing mindset coaches in the world. I not randomly, because there is nothing random about the universe, but I randomly met her because Audible served her book, one of her first books, up to me. And I fell in love with her style, her voice, and I wanted more. And I've read all of her books. Today, I want to talk about a book called Magic Words and how to use them. Because of all of the books that she's written, this is the book that I continue to go back to and that I feel has the greatest potential to impact us business owners. Before we dive in, though, because I could totally just go right to the heart of it, Sasha, I would like you to introduce yourself in your words to the followers of Kim Daly and tell us a little bit about how you're so highly educated, but then self-taught, right? Tell us how you transformed your life.
Yes, it's true. It is a transformation. I am nothing like the person I used to be. I suppose until it was about 10 years ago, actually, when things really started to change. I was educated. I was university educated. In fact, I became a lecturer at one point. So I was an analytical, rational, almost a scientific person. But I was miserable. I suffered with depression. I had terrible debts. I suffered with a lot of insomnia. And I think the whole change actually probably started happening as a result of an extreme, in fact, 15-year bout of insomnia, when I was really struggling at university, because it was there that I started to realize that I could change my experience. I could take control of my life situation, that I didn't need to be buffeted along by events, by things going wrong, by circumstances over which I had no control. I actually had a say in the matter. And the very first big transformation I made was in overcoming insomnia. And I did that largely by telling a different story about what was going on. Really, that's where it all started. And then I suppose about a good few years after that, I'd overcome the insomnia, but I was still suffering with other things. I had depression, I had terrible debt. And it was about 10 years ago when it really transformed. That was when I think I'd reached a point of absolute despair. I'd reached real rock bottom. And really, I was living in a very, very tiny flat. I didn't even have carpet on the floor. I was financially in a terrible state. I was working minimum wage in a factory. Even though I was a highly educated person, I was single. I was overweight. Honestly, everything was going wrong. I fell into despair. And I think it was really when I hit rock bottom, I realized there's only one place to go from here. And that's up. Sounds like a cliche, but there's only one way to go. And there's only one person that's going to be able to take that journey, and that's me. There's only one person who's going to be able to fix this, and that's me. No one is going to fix this. No one is going to help me. No one is going to save me. I have to do this myself. And it was like almost like a light bulb went on that, oh, right, I can change all this. I can change this. It's for me to change. It's not for somebody else to fix. It's for me. And I basically started to change the way I showed up in the world. Let's put it that way. I changed the story I told almost instantly. I stopped complaining about anything. I basically refused to complain about anything. I told a positive story about everything that was going on, no matter what. I sorted my life out as well. I started to get exercise. I started to stop eating junky food. I changed the way I showed up in the world. And lo and behold, the world went and changed in suit. And from that point on, everything started to change. And now, today, I run multiple six-figure businesses. I've sold over 500,000 books. And I'm here talking to you on a podcast. I'm no longer...
No, I'm here talking to you, listening to you.
This was not who I was. I was a frightened little bag of grievances. I was a bag of complaints and worry and anxiety and neurosis and blaming the entire world for the fact that, you know, I hadn't been given a chance, and here I was, this clever person who wasn't being recognized. And that's all gone. And in place is this, you know, very different
magical
person.
Life.
Yeah, and because the transformation was so wild, I started calling it magic. I called it magic.
Yes, magic.
And it sounds airy-fairy. It sounds like woo-woo nonsense, flower child rubbish. It's not like that. I call this magic because it's actually absolutely the best word for the job. Because as a rational, scientific person, I needed to let go of the tight control I had on everything in my life. I needed to actually go, okay, I'm not completely in control of everything that's going on around me. Things are going to happen. Weird stuff's going to happen. And I have to be open to things. And magic just seemed to allow my mind to just settle down and calm down and let things be. So yeah, there we go. There's a bit of a story for you.
It's amazing. And what's so amazing is because I've read all of your books and I've heard the story in your books and, you know, interpreted those words through your books, and now hearing you say it live, it's just, I for those listeners out there, like if you at all enjoy this episode, or even if you don't, go get some of her books, like Doing Magic, Being Magic, Becoming Rich. Is that, or yeah, is that one of them?
Becoming
yeah.
Yeah. But I would say Magic Words, the one you've picked up on, and here it is. I got a copy so you can see it. Magic Words and How to Use Them. It's my favourite book, I've got to say. It's my pride and joy. I love this book because it's unbelievably practical. You know, you don't need to believe in magic. You don't need to be spiritual. You could not believe a single word I say about magic, and you could still follow this, and it would still work really well.
It'll work. Exactly. Okay, so on that note, all right, so now with that set up, what does this have to do with owning a business? So let's flip the script and let's dive into, for those business owners or wannabe business owners out there, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a little role play. Because what I see happening as the franchise consultant that leads people to their marriage day with their franchisor, right? We get you all teed up and ready. Your hopes are high. Your belief is there. You are going to change your life because you said yes to a franchise. And then you get in there and maybe things take a little bit longer. Maybe you have some setbacks early on, right? Just things that you didn't expect happen because business isn't perfect and life isn't perfect and life happens while we're trying to create our life, right? And so what I see happen is if I catch back up with you 4 months, 6 months, a year into business ownership, you're no longer telling the happy, excited, motivated, dream-felt stories you were sharing when I was working with you. You're telling a completely different story that I 100% know if you keep telling will continue to perpetuate itself. And that's why I thought having Sasha on would be so powerful, because she's written books on this subject. So, Sasha, when people have this mindset switch, right, from high belief of I am ready to change my life to, oh my God, did I make the right decision? This is harder than I thought it was going to be. Why is everything going wrong? And the negative self talk starts to spiral them down. What should they do in that moment?
Right. What I'd like to say is, what would make a big... there is actually a switch that happens when you come to realize that when you tell a story, you are not reporting on a truth that you're seeing. You're literally creating that truth with the story you're telling in that moment. So it seems the case that we see a world out there and then we tell a story about it. But it's actually more that we tell the story and then we see the world. We're literally creating with the story we tell. So when you're telling a story, it's not the way, it doesn't feel the same way anymore. It doesn't feel like it did. It's not how I expected it to be. You know, I wanted to be further along than this. It wasn't supposed to be hard like this. Literally in that moment that you're saying that, that's what you're experiencing. That's it. The creation happens instantly. It's happening there. Okay, so all you need to do is is recognize that that's happened and take control of it in that instant. Like, oh, I'm telling a really negative story there. How can I tell this in a different way? How can I take control of this story in a different way? How can I? In the beginning, it just does sound like you're putting a positive gloss on things. It'll just sound like, well, things aren't so bad because, you know, I've still got this opportunity and that opportunity, and things aren't going too badly, and I can. There'll be kind of like a positive slant you can put on things. That's kind of how it starts. But as time goes on, you get more and more confident with it, and it almost gets to the stage where you can kind of speak things into existence. You're literally creating as you're speaking. So I would just say, number one, quit complaining. Full stop. Absolutely 100% complaining. Unless it's literally you're going to the shop and saying, this television I bought is broken. Can you please give me a replacement? That's a complaint that's worth stating. Saying, you know, there's a caterpillar in my salad. Can you bring me a new salad? That's a complaint worth making. You know, there are certain complaints it's okay to make. Complaints about the state of your life, just don't do it. Because this is something you might have to take on trust for now. But this is something I've seen again and again. Complaining is creating. You'll have heard this from my book. Complaining is still creating. It's just creating stuff you don't like. So when you're complaining, you're literally creating a complaint-worthy thing. You're making that situation you're seeing complaint-worthy by speaking of it in a negative way. So literally in that moment, change it. You have a real power. The moment you see that you're telling a negative story, that is your point of power. That's it. Like, oh, what can I do differently? Do I fall back into the same negative story, or do I just go, no, I'm going to push it a little bit in this direction, that direction over there? And all it takes is that tiny deviation. Suddenly you're off on a completely different path to a completely different future. You do that again and again and again and again. And you can, you can go from minimum wage job in a factory to multiple six-figure businesses in a short space of time, because that's what I did. There was no secret to what I did. I literally just talked it into existence.
I love it. And it makes me think of like when, you know, like if two people see an accident, why like police officers get multiple recaps of what was seen, because two people never see the same accident the same way, right? Because we all see reality through our own perceptions and beliefs, which cloud what we see, right? So that's what she's saying. And so the more that you stand in that place of complaining, and what happens in a lot of franchise systems is you find other people who will saddle up next to you and stay in that complaint with you. And that's the most dangerous thing to do. I'm a really big believer in forming an accountability group with your peers and your franchise, but only if that accountability group has the rule that there will absolutely be no complaining. We are not coming together to share in our grievances or share in our, false expectations of what we thought we were owed and what we're not getting, because that will become a way for all of you to fail.
Yeah.
But if you come together in this accountability group to hold each other accountable to staying positive despite what's happening around you, you will all go on to live magical, magical lives. And for those of you who follow me, you know that my story mirrors Sasha's story, right? In that I went from an average performing consultant after 8 years to 1 year later building the most extraordinary business that had been built at that time in my industry, simply by telling myself a different story every single day. I had belief, I had faith, I had hope. I put my head down, I was laser focused, and I executed. I made no excuses for myself. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing so that they wouldn't cloud my belief, and I didn't talk against myself. I had no idea of the power of what I was doing until I followed through for 1 year as I said I would. And the rest literally is history. And this is the power of telling yourself a different story, using magic words to change your story. So to summarize again, what she said is you're using magic words all the time. It's just most of us, when we're unaware, we're telling a story that we don't want. And as your mindset coach in your franchise business, I want to inspire you to the power of telling the story that you do want, even when it doesn't seem rational or fair or honest in that specific moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's give a specific example. So I'm going to be the client who walks in. You're the coach, okay? And I'm going to walk into your office, sit in your office, and I'm going to be like, all right, so Sasha, this is what happened to me. So they told me that I would have 100 customers within my first 90 days. Well, I'm nearing my 90-day period and I only have 40 customers. So, I mean, I don't really know what to do. When I walk into my business and it's just not like the way that I thought it was going to be, I'm really starting to freak out here. And I'm wondering, like, did I even make the right decision? Because soon enough, I might run out of money. And if I run out of money, then I'm just going to be another failure.
I'd stop you right there. I'd stop. This is what I would do, because I wouldn't let somebody run away with that story. I'd be like, whoa. You see what you're doing here?
Wow.
You see what you're doing. You see what you're doing. You're literally in this moment making that true. That story, what's happened is you had an expectation of certain number of clients, a certain number of sales. You have this number of sales. That's the facts. That's what's happened. You've made certain number of sales. Everything on top that you've told me is your interpretation. That's all a product of your beliefs and your story. And all of that stuff can be changed. And believe me, if you change all of that story you've just given me about that fact, then that fact will change. It will no longer be 40 sales. But the story has to change first. Do not wait for the sales to come in to change that story. Change that story now and then watch in wonder as the sales start to pour in. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but how? How do I change the story? The facts are that I only have 40 people and I'm supposed to have 90.
So you have 40. So what are you going to do? So you have 40. This is the fact. You have 40 sales. You have 40 people. So what do you do now? Do you continue to blame this company that said, they said I should be having this many? They're not the ones who are going to fix this. You're the one that's going to fix this. This is your business. This is your franchise. This is your life.
You can't see me. I'm doing a happy dance in my chair right now, guys and gals.
At some point, when you can take responsibility, absolute and utter responsibility for your life, it is the most empowering, the most incredible thing you can do. So it means you literally, from that moment, like, you don't have to wait for anybody else. You don't have to blame someone else for your problems or the fact you don't have any sales. Something to do with them. They said something and it hasn't happened. Big flipping deal. This is the situation. You have 40 people and you want 100 people. Then go and get the 100 people. What are you going to do today right now to make that happen and start telling that story. I am now on the journey to 100 people. What am I going to do today to make that happen? The whole thing changes. While you're blaming those other people for saying you should have had 100, you are stuck. You're stuck because you've got 40 and they said 100. So what are they going to give them to you? Is the franchisor going to come along and say, "Oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Here, have it." They're not going to fix it. It's for you to fix. It's for you to fix.
I love it. They have the tools, but it's your mindset over those tools and your execution with those tools. And as like to take it one step further, I would say to you, what did you do to get the first 40? So if you need 40 more and you want to do it in half the time, 2x whatever you did, right? If you want to think rationally or logically, get out there and do 2 times what you did to get the first 40. And whoa, you're going to be at 80 in half the time, right? So it's always on you. Okay, so that was so great. So let's go a little bit deeper into owning a business, because sometimes people get out of the gate and everything's really good for a certain amount of time, and then something happens like an election or a recession. Okay. And so now your business is in a slump. So it's my business, right? So I walk into your office again and I say, wow, like things were really good for a really long time. And I mean, I know how to be successful. Like I'm doing everything that I know to do, and yet it's still not working. I don't even know. Like this recession is just making me feel like I just have to like sell my business or go try something different, because I don't know if I can push through this. It's really hard. It's the hardest it's ever been.
Okay. First of all, I'd stop using the word recession. Recession's just a label. It's just a label. What even is a recession? I mean, it's just a label for a situation that kind of exists somewhere. It doesn't even really exist anywhere. It's a really negative way of describing a state of affairs. The fact is, you could do anything right now. You have no idea that this so-called recession, this so-called slump, isn't the exact perfect thing that's supposed to happen to propel your business into the stratosphere. Because from this moment on, you can change the future. From this moment on, that what you do today will have an effect in the future. So forget about what's going on elsewhere. Really, that's the story everybody else is telling. Oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult. People haven't got any money anymore. Cost of living is so difficult. There's a big recession. We're still suffering after COVID. All these stories, they're just stories. There are people making millions, billions at this moment. This second, people are making millions. Do you think they're complaining about the recession? Do you think they're moaning? They're not. They're telling a completely different story. They're saying, how can I make the most of this? What can I do differently? What can I do to make this better? What can I do? I'm not going to let that get me down. I mean, really, going off the script, off the story a little bit there, but when I hear, I pay almost no attention to the news. I don't watch it. I don't read it. It's like, I'm not listening to all that doom and gloom, because it's doom and gloom. When somebody tells me there's a recession, or I shouldn't be doing this because it's going to make me ill, or I don't know, the latest scare story about this, that, and the other, I just pay no attention. It's just like, it's just a story. It's a story. And these things just don't, you don't have to believe a story that someone else tells you. Tell a story that you want to be true. You'll be amazed at what you can change. Pick a story you want to be true and start telling it. That's what I did right back in the beginning. Right back in the beginning. I've transformed my insomnia, my depression, my finances, my weight. I've transformed
your love life.
Oh my
God, most amazing story in her book.
Yeah, I could write a few books on. I haven't written a book on relationships, but oh my goodness, yeah, I was queen of the ridiculous, awful relationship, broken marriage, violent partners, the lot. Changed the story. Met the love of my life. Been together 15 years. We don't even disagree with each other, let alone argue. It's sickeningly sometimes I say it's a sickeningly harmonious relationship I have now after this. Because the thing is, Kim, when you start to play with this, you see the power of it. And when you really, instead, I can stand here till I'm blue in the face and tell you this works, but you'll only really understand it when you start to do it. And when you start to see, oh God, this really works, you'll be like, oh, what can I change? Oh, what can I do now? How big can I go with this? And that's where I am now. I'm like, what can I create now? What is the limit? Can I change reality by talking? What can I do? It gets bigger and more adventurous.
It's so good. It's so true. You have to. That's why I loved in the beginning when she said it doesn't matter whether you want to believe in the science of this yet. Like, you just have to try it. And in her book, she has examples of like starting small. And there's so many things in the book. Like, one of the lines in the book that stuck out to me that I'll remember, like, I remember where I was exactly when I heard it. And I don't even, it's like sometimes, like, there's actually, you tell a story in storytelling book about, I think the guy's name was Michael, about his divorce and him telling a different story,
Yes.
or maybe it was a different story, but like where he heard you said something to him and it was what you said in that moment that then always triggers him to be accountable. Well, it's one of those things. I mean, you said to do, and maybe you're not the first person to say this, but we're talking about doing magic. And so if you want to do something extraordinary, you have to do something like extraordinary. Those are sort of like your words. And so how I interpret that is, I mean, I want to make history again in my franchise. That was fun, right? It's way more fun playing at a history making and breaking my own history making level than it was spinning around in the average pack. And I think any business owner out there would agree, right? You're not in this to be average. You're in this to live and achieve your highest and best dreams. But maybe you're stuck in a pattern that isn't allowing you to get there. So what I'm saying is, in order to have that extraordinary life, to break free from the average, to be in the top 5 or 10% of your franchise, you have to be willing to do things that other people are not willing to do or are not willing to do consistently, right? Because this isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. And so you have to be willing to become aware of your thoughts and then be willing to catch yourself, laugh with yourself, don't judge yourself, and then say, I need to change this because what I'm thinking in my present moment is creating my future reality. Is that what I want? No. If you're not saying something positive, that's not what you want. And so it is a discipline. I'll call it a daily. Sasha doesn't know this, but I'm known for my dailyisms because of my last name. But it is a daily discipline to create the habit. But that's how any habit is created, right? Going to the gym. How do you create the habit? By consistently making yourself do it until it becomes a habit to where now it's easy. The same thing with not thinking negative thoughts, even when you're faced with your biggest fears. And I think that a business is, first of all, back up and say that, a business is our most amazing playground in life for personal and professional growth. It is the number one place where we come face to face with our biggest fear, which is fear of not being enough. And that's always, when that's tied to money, it's amplified because losing money is people's, I'd say greatest fear. But I think that ties back to self-worth. So do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's so many things I could have said. And what you said there, I kind of kept wanting to jump in and say something. And
do it. It's your show.
I've lost the track of what I was going to say before. But I would just say that, I mean, absolutely. Things in business, and I'm a businesswoman too, and I've had my ups and downs, and I've had times when it felt like everything was going wrong. And the most amazing thing happens when you can tell a positive story, when you can tell the story you want to be true, even when things are going wrong, actually, especially when things are apparently going wrong. That's what sets you apart. That's when some magic happens, Because let's face it, this is something I'm fond of saying. Any fool can tell a positive story when everything's going well. When there's money rolling in and everything's easy, any fool can tell a positive story. It's the person who can tell the positive story when things aren't going to plan. That's the extraordinary one. That's the person that's going to create something truly extraordinary in their life, because that's what no one's doing. Look at the world. The world is moaning and complaining and blaming, and this is terrible and bad news, and look at the state of the world. Look at the state of the world, we hear all the time. Everybody's doing that. The person who can have a setback in their business, and I'll never call it more than a setback. I'll never talk about a disaster. I'll never talk about a mistake. I'll never talk about any of that. I'll sometimes say there's a setback. If there's a setback, the person that can calmly look at the setback and again go back to their positive story and just find a fresh way to look at it, a positive way to look at it, that person is going to be amazingly successful. It's almost impossible for you not to be successful. I am not a clever businesswoman. I've never done business courses. I've never done business qualifications. No one's taught me how to do this. All I've done is, not unlike your people, I was not given a blueprint. I've just tried lots of things and told a positive story no matter what. And when things kind of went awry, just found a positive way to look at them, learned from them and moved on. Did it rinse and repeat over and over and over and over. If I had stopped when things went wrong and fallen into despair and told a negative story, I'd still be in that flat. I'd still be in a flat with no carpet on the floor. I'd still be working for minimum wage. Loads of things have gone wrong for me. Millions of things have loads of setbacks over and over. But these days, I don't even recognise them. You learn to kind of like bat them away like flies. They're like, lost 10 grand? Who cares? Nothing. Get on. Next thing. That didn't work. Okay, never mind. Next thing. Let's move on. So,
as another influential person in my life once always says, his name is Joel Osteen, he always says, a setback is nothing more than a setup for something greater in your future. Absolutely. And you know what? The fact that Kim Daly has over 800 videos on YouTube and a podcast that's growing, soon to be the number one, franchise podcast on Apple and Spotify, it's all due to a setback during COVID when I couldn't do what I had done for 18 years, which was travel and host live events to inspire people to want to work with me and change their life by buying a franchise. Well, how do you think I felt in March of 2020 when they told me I couldn't get on the airplane and get to my next event in April? And that was how I had made a living for 18 years. So the fact that I am here and now I am known, now for having all of this content on the internet, and I've touched people all over the country that I never would have met doing it the way that I did it for 18 years. It was all due to a setback that was really the greatest setup for the future that I was just destined for. So you have to spin it. You have to be there. I love that. So before we wrap this up, we have to talk about how our beliefs impact the stories we tell, because with each coaching interview or episode that I put out, Sasha, I like to leave my listeners like your books. They're simple, they're short, and it's a tool. Your books are tools. That's how I look at them. And that's how I want each episode of my podcast to be listened and used as a tool where there's a real takeaway for the listener that they can go back to their business or their life and implement today. So everything we're really talking about kind of starts with our beliefs. And beliefs are deep and they're hard to change. So how do our beliefs impact the stories we tell? And the second part of this is then how do we change these beliefs, especially if they're limiting beliefs, to set us up for something different in our future?
So Kim, I'm going to back you up a bit there, because there's a little story you told there. And the story is, beliefs are deep and they're difficult to change. Okay? And you said that with such conviction. You probably didn't even realize that was a belief. You didn't even realize you were telling a story doing that. But that's just a belief. Because as far as I can see it, beliefs are not mysterious and they're not that deep. Beliefs are just thoughts we think over and over and over and over, and we think they're true. That's all they are.
Okay, wait. So my teenage kids are like, Mom, it's not that deep. So I'm going to be like, Sasha, it's not that deep. That's amazing. When the mindset coach coaches the mindset coach, this is when we get real and it's awesome.
So
sorry, continue.
So beliefs are actually quite easy. Beliefs are just thoughts thoughts that you repeat over and over and over and over, and you haven't stopped to question. That's all they are. If you want to change a belief, all you need to do is start telling a different story. Because when you start telling a different story consciously, okay, here's what I kind of describe in the book. We have thoughts that pop into our heads all day long. All the time we're thinking thoughts. And most of the time we don't seem to have any control over them. They're popping in, random stuff happens all the time. Pew, 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 pew. But we can take control of those to a certain extent. If we take control of over the thoughts we can control and over the words we speak, in time, what happens is those spontaneous thoughts that happen, they start to follow suit. They start to follow the story we've been telling consciously. So if we consciously tell a story, eventually those random thoughts, the spontaneous thoughts, will follow suit. And eventually, when that's been happening enough, it actually starts to sound true. When it starts to sound true, you've got a belief change. It's really not rocket science. It really happens effortlessly. It's not... It's really that simple. And here's a way to...
I love it.
Here's a great way to... There's something, a very easy way to test this. I actually have this book that I recommend. If anybody's interested in this, I recommend they get this book. It's a cheap book. It's on Amazon. It's short and it's fun.
All mine are right here in my phone. I don't own the physical book. I own all of them, but in my ears.
There's actually a little there's a mini course attached to this that you can do for free online. It's a funnel into my other courses.
And what's the link to that? Go ahead and give that out. That's good.
I think
Becoming
magic.com/magic words course, all one word. It's a free course. There's a funnel, but you can ignore the funnel. You can just do the course because it's a really good course on its own. And if you want to join me afterwards, that's fine. But it's a perfectly good standalone course. And in this course, what I recommend people do is to if they want to test this out, this is something you can test. Pick something in your life that really annoys you, that irritates you. It might be a person, it might be a politician, it might be a neighbour whose dog's always barking, something that really annoys you. Something that kind of, not a huge problem like, a massive debt that you can't pay off. I'm talking about a niggling thing, a little niggling thing. And just start telling a completely positive story from this point on about that thing. So if it's a neighbour whose dog's always barking, just find a different way to talk about that. Just think, okay, he probably doesn't like the fact his dog barks all the time either. And it's not really the dog's fault. And just find a different way to talk about this situation you don't like. Keep doing it. And see what happens. You'll be amazed. If you do it consistently, not only will the story tell, but you tell change, and your thoughts will change, magically, that situation somehow changes. Suddenly the dog stops barking. Suddenly the neighbour moves away. Suddenly, did I do that? You'll be amazed. And that'll be the first moment you'll see, oh my goodness, I really can control this thing. I really do have a say in what happens. I'm not just a victim of circumstances. I'm a creator, a powerful, magical creator. And all I need to do is tell a story.
So good. It's so good. It's so good. The masterful mindset coach has spoken today. Sasha Stephens. Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much for being my guest here today on Kim Daly TV.
Oh, Kim, it's been an absolute blast. Anytime. I'll come back whenever you like. It's been really fun. Oh, my
goodness. I mean, you're back like later today when I'm in the gym listening to you in my ears. So I have to say thank you for the years of partnership that we've been in partnership and you just didn't know it.
I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it. Didn't even give permission, but...
It's so good. I find you so inspiring. For those who also are inspired by this, I dare you to take her up on her challenge of telling a different story on something small in your life and watching how it will magically change. Because once you get a little bit of taste of victory and you see how powerful you actually are, you'll be able to apply this same strategy to bigger and bigger things. And so if you want to start with the book, it's called Magic Words on Amazon. She has many other books, though, under the name Genevieve Davis. That's her beautiful pen name. And then the course, we will put that in the description below so that you can go and take the course. I've taken that. Please, if there's anything else you want to know, you can reach out to me and go to her books, because the answers are there. There's so many amazing stories. There's great tools. Her books are very, very practical tools. So for those who know me personally, you know that like I've studied Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I've studied Abraham Hicks, or Esther and Jerry Hicks, and Dr. Wayne Dyer is very influential in my life, and all of these people, and they all say the same thing, but for some reason, this woman's voice and her books speaks the loudest to me in terms of how to actually live it and make it reality, because it's magic. So thank you so much for following us on this extra long episode, but it was so worth it, because it's not often we have a very well-known famous person here in studio on Kim Daly TV. So thank you again, Sasha, for being my guest today.
Absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure, Kim. It's been a delight.
And until next time, everybody, please remember, if you're interested in getting started in a franchise, you know that you can reach out to me. Follow the email on the screen right now, or reach directly out to inquire@kimdaly.tv. That's inquire@kimdaly.tv. And until next time, my name is Kim Daly, and I want to be your daily coach. You can find more content just like this on my YouTube channel at kimdaly.tv. And if you're inspired to take the next step to explore franchises matched to you, please email me right now at inquire@kimdaly.tv. That's inquire@kimdaly.tv.